Universities and the financial controls and reporting around them are often a contentious point. Points such as how much are fees, fees-free policies, and the concept of government subsidised education. Well, hello and welcome to our presentation. My name is Harrison and I will introduce this discussion and give a background to both the University of Canterbury and Victoria University of Wellington, before Shirin will cover Victoria's statement of service performance. This will then be followed up by Sam discussing Canterbury, before Amy will sum up and conclude our presentation. Beginning with Victoria University, Victoria was founded in 1897. Teaching began in 1899 with 115 students enrolled in the first year. Victoria currently has over 22,000 students enrolled in study. Victoria is now spread across various campuses in Wellington, including the original campus in Kelburn, where the first part of Victoria was built. Victoria's historic strength in public policy has been fully demonstrated by substantial contributions to major government projects and entrepreneurship. Education is an emerging strength on which it intends to build. Law is also a strong area for Victoria, as is the humanities. The university is in the top 2% of the world's 18,000 universities, and in 19 subject areas they are among the top 1% of the world's universities. In addition, Victoria's areas of academic distinctiveness address local, national and global challenges, with a focus on Wellington, New Zealand and the Asia Pacific. It also holds 8 distinctive multidisciplinary themes which span the university. Victoria aims to produce graduates whose learning has been developed inside and outside the classroom and are informed by a global perspective. The next consideration is the University of Canterbury, which was first established in 1873 as Canterbury College and was the second university in New Zealand. Originally housed in what is now the modern-day Arts Centre, it was dependent on rents from high country farms with which it had been endowed by the Canterbury Provincial Council for its survival. Over 100 years later, the university completed its move to the new 76-hectare site it and us currently occupy. Within the university, 5 colleges, being Arts, Education, Health and Human Development, Engineering, Science and Business and Law, all offer graduate and postgraduate courses in more than 70 subjects. In March 2019, 16,382 students were enrolled to study. In terms of its most well-known areas of offerings, Canterbury is famous for its engineering, boasting one of the top engineering departments in New Zealand. Much of its development was aided by the Christchurch earthquake, in which the university has in recent years seen an expansion in earthquake-related studies, including in 2016 when it opened a high-end test hall that places the university on the world stage for earthquake engineering research. Canterbury is also ranked in the top 2% of universities worldwide, and was the first New Zealand university to gain a 5-star rating from QS. Hopefully this gives you a strong background in what both universities are today and how they came to be. I will now turn it over to Shirin to discuss Victoria in more depth.
As we had a bit of background information about the two universities, Victoria and Canterbury by Harrison, we can now focus on something a bit more specific. So we will look at the entity's service performance reports in some detail. The reason for that is that there has been some proposed changes from the Controller and Auditor General to the 8 universities in New Zealand to make those reports GAP compliant from next year onwards. So before I get into detail what those new requirements are going to be, I just want to quickly mention what service performance reports actually are. So they're reports designed for users that cannot require the entity to disclose certain information to sort of hold the universities accountable and to help users in their decision making. They consist of a mix of quantitative and qualitative information, and the general theme is based on 2 main elements, which is first of all the outcomes. So what is the entity seeking to achieve? And second, the outputs. So what did the entity actually deliver during the year? There's also another standard, which is the PBE Financial Reporting Standard 48 Service Performance Reporting that should be applied for those public benefit entities from January 2021. And the general changes are to help the reports to better meet the needs of users, as these reports sort of are part of the financial reports itself. And the reason for that is that public benefit entities are pretty much having objectives they have to fulfill relating to servicing the community and the society overall. And now I'll get into a bit more detail about the GAP compliance. So to be able to be compliant with GAP, performance statements have to have certain characteristics, such as being understandable, complete, comparable, reliant, and relevant. We'll focus on the first three of those characteristics in our presentation today. So first of all, I'd like to give a quick explanation of what understandable actually means, what complete is, and what comparable means. So understandable refers to the report being easy to read and a language that is to be used that is as understandable by everyone. So that means no jargon and no technical terms are being used. The report should be clear and should give a lot of information in a brief but comprehensive way. So when we talk about a report being complete, this means all the relevant information has to be disclosed. And if we talk about a report being comparable, this refers to information and numbers disclosed in the report to be comparative, to include things such as forecast, trends, target values, etc. And that's all sort of to help make those reports more usable by users. And the main change for the main implication is that auditors now have the right to give an audit opinion on those reports. Beforehand, they only disclosed a management letter and provided recommendations to the universities in that way. And we will look at the service performance report of Victoria. So the report is only 6 pages long, which is sort of the first thing to note. The report entails graphs, narratives, tables with target figures and actual figures from the 2018 period and the comparison figures going back 2 years to sort of enable readers to identify trends and performance over time, which is also shown on the slide there. On the first page of the university's report, it has set out its vision, which is to become one of the world's global civic universities, which is the university that values close involvement with social, cultural, and the economic life of its city and region. And on the following pages, the strategies of the university are highlighted, which is split into primary and enabling strategies. And the graph showing information such as the course completion rate is very easy to understand. It's great and easy to compare. As mentioned before, it has all those sort of provisional and target figures included, and also helps students sort of make decisions in regards to choosing a university, which one they want to go to. One thing we note, what became obvious to us is that the university hasn't provided any figures in relation to costs. So we personally believe that it would be quite useful to have sort of the outcomes relating to costs involved disclosed in the future, and that's possibly a proposed change going forward. Another thing would be, as we were sort of taking the student perspective, to have sort of more a clear way to show students how their sort of fees are actually linked to what the university does and how those are spent. So that's the main part sort of about the Victoria's service performance report and how it's structured. So now I will be handing over to Sam, who will be covering Canterbury's report in some detail.
The University of Canterbury annual report is a very comprehensive yet concise and covers all the areas of the university which may be of use to stakeholders. The segment we have been focusing on is the Statement of Service Performance, which covers the key strategies that have been put in place with relation to the students and the university overall. The university's vision is people prepared to make a difference, which it aims to achieve through the key strategies of challenge, concentrate, and connect. We have chosen to speak mainly on how the students, as stakeholders of the university, would use and interpret the information in this report for relevance to you. Firstly, this report is laid out and structured in a way that is clear and understandable to all stakeholders, from students to investors, and the use of simple yet effective words and diagrams and tables convey all the information in a direct and useful manner. Overall, the report could potentially be streamlined slightly more to cut down on size, but for the most part is concise. In the challenge section, the key parts that we thought would be most useful to students were the tables related to successful course completion and qualification completion, the large paragraphs covering all areas of student life from accommodation to academic results, and the graduate profile, which is the university's idea of what the key competencies of a Canterbury graduate would be. In the concentrate section, the focus is on the quality and impact of research outputs from the university and how these findings are making a difference in society. Finally, the connect section puts a large importance on having a strong, shared and beneficial relationship with all stakeholders, ensuring that no matter where someone fits into the organisation, their input is important. The completeness is also something that is definitely well covered in the service report, as it is fairly long and covers each area well. With the introduction of the new Public Benefit Accounting FRS 48, there should be a further improvement in this area, as new requirements mean some costs directly related to service performance must be shown. From a student point of view, this gives an insight into money being injected into achieving these key strategies and where the money is coming from to ensure our payments are being put to good use. As Sharon has already outlined, we are looking at the comparison between Victoria and Canterbury, and we have found that the information which is covered in the two reports is very similar, both based around the key performance objectives of the university. The layouts and visual aids used by Victoria are near identical to those shown in the Canterbury report. Here are a few excerpts, as shown on the slides. Due to the similarities right throughout the report, it is very easy for stakeholders to compare the two, an example being students who are looking to attend university and want to make a decision on where to go. Other major stakeholders, such as the government, can also look at this information and make decisions on the performance of the two universities and how resources should be allocated, for example. I will now pass on to Amelia, who will conclude our findings.
To conclude our presentation, I'm going to talk a bit about the variation between the two universities' reports and introduce a few insights based on what we learned throughout this project. The main distinction between the university's 2018's reports is the overall layout, in which I would say the University of Victoria has the upper hand, and that's not just because 6 pages meant less for us to read, although that wasn't entirely irrelevant. While both universities are very alike in terms of content, Victoria has managed to convey this information in a much more concise report without omitting any key points. We believe they have achieved this through both the design and organisation of the report and the use of graphs and tables that display stats in a way that are easy to understand and digest. In contrast to this, the University of Canterbury report features a lot more commentary. While this leaves no room for uncertainty, we aren't entirely convinced that this is overly useful, with time being our most precious commodity and an audience that has access to a wealth of information at their fingertips. We would suspect the level of commentary present deters many. In regards to the imposition of the new regulations, implications will arise. In order to ensure effective implementation of new requirements, a high level of upper management engagement will be vital. Beyond this, staff will need retraining, greater costs of compliance will be incurred, and IT systems may need updating. However, the perceived benefits must outweigh the costs in order for the new regulation to have been instated. By ordering tertiary suppliers to produce their Statement of Service Performance reports to a GATT standard ensures that the information being provided is consistent and reliable, free of misrepresentation and fraud. Having a common set of standards of which reports are to meet also aids in comparability between the organisations. All of these factors improve the usability and the readability of the report. Currently, both universities have produced reports to high standard that offer in-depth insights on university operations as a whole, and for what we can deduct are already meeting many of the new standards laid out in the proposed changes. A final thought that we wish to leave for you to ponder on is what the imposition of these changes say about our world today. We believe that the increased importance being placed on the Statement of Service Performance Report is reflective of the dynamic world in which we live. When one Googles the most sought after traits by employers, you'll notice things such as adaptability, flexibility, creativity, and innovation. With technology replacing humans in more autonomous areas of work, graduates need to be more than just academic in order to remain relevant. Diversity and originality is pertinent. Service Performance Reports details core values, strategic goals, and measures of non-academic success. The increased emphasis being placed on these reports serves as an acknowledgement of the importance of a comprehensive education.
We will now answer the questions posed to us by the other groups. Otago University asked, what idea do you believe is the most significant to your given university's statement of service performance? We answered that we believe understandability is the most important idea relating to the statement of service performance for Victoria and Canterbury universities. Understandability is key for relevance to users and stakeholders, as if information becomes too complex, it will undermine its reliability and usefulness for decision making. As the statement of service performance is used by such a large range of stakeholders, it is very important for the information to be understandable across the spectrum.
So the question from Massey University was, given that the statement of service reporting is only 6 pages long, does that mean they will have to provide more information when the changes are made? So this is referring to Victoria's service performance statement. And basically our answer to that was that changes coming in does not necessarily require entities to provide more information. If the report includes all the relevant information, graphs and statistics to inform users about the entity's performance for the period, focusing on the outcomes, output and cost relating to those, then no, they would not require to disclose more information. Having a short report is not necessarily a bad thing. If everything is needing to be conveyed is in 6 pages, then that is absolutely fine.
The next question was from Waikato University, who asked about what kinds of technology we'd like to see implemented in order to improve the standards of reports. The idea behind a possible need for new technology wasn't aimed at improving report standards, but rather making the reporting process easier. New proposed standards mean more work for those who are producing the reports, from data collection to formatting right through to distribution and everything else in between. While we're unsure what methods the universities currently conduct in order to produce the reports, we'd recommend some type of financial reporting system to improve efficiency. FRS systems can offer choice of report formatting, ease of distribution, collaboration, a comprehensive audit trail, reporting data being linked to the source data, and data integration from multiple ERP systems, relational databases, MSL, and more sources. These are just a few of the many benefits an imposition of a financial reporting system would present, all of which would aid the composition of reports. We will now discuss some of our reflections from throughout this assignment. So prior to this assignment, I was fairly oblivious to the contrast between universities aside from location. I've learned that this is not in fact the case, and that there is a vast difference between universities, and because of which an appropriate amount of time and thought should be taken when deciding where to study. Each university has individual backgrounds and varying areas of focus, which creates a unique experience from university to university.
Our next point of reflection is what we've learned about reports and reporting in general. So nobody knew what service performance reports were before we started this assignment, so that was definitely a big learning curve, and we didn't know that universities had to prepare them. It was interesting to find out that the universities are accountable stakeholders for such a reports, and also that they have to include items such as student completion rates. The reports are useful to inform people wanting to go to university and helping them make their decisions, sort of which university to choose. And the reports are also structured well, sort of making them very easy to understand, and would therefore be useful for people who do not have a lot of background in accounting or reporting in general.
In terms of our team performance, we feel that we all work together well. We met early to discuss the presentation and allocated various sections to ensure everyone knew what job they had. The team worked well and never created any disagreements. And we feel that we all organised ourselves and each other well to ensure a quality end product, and something that we can be all proud of. I will now turn over to Sam to give our final thoughts and reflections.
Finally, our team enjoyed learning more about our two universities as well as those presented on by the other teams. We feel as though our understanding of annual reports and reporting is good enough to be able to take on most reports produced by organisations around the world. It was also good to get the experience presenting in front of a group and taking feedback on our efforts, as this is a key skill for many future employment opportunities. And finally, we are very pleased to have found direct relevance in the service performance report as students of University of Canterbury, and are much better informed on its operation. Thank you for listening.